Shaky cam. Hey, Doug McConnell, Reality Man. Video. Oh my God. I like doing videos. Haven't done videos in a while. My little thing that held my phone broke, so here's a new one. So we'll get to do some more videos. It mounts on a tripod. But that's not what I want to talk to you about. What I actually want to talk to you about are these things. This is a radio. Okay, this is a UV5R, a Baofeng UV5R. It's a ham radio. It gets mixed opinions in the communities because it is a cheap radio that produces noise and stuff like that. But anyhow, before I get into this, I wanted to explain that I wanted to get into the hobby of ham radio since I was 11 years old. It took me 40 years to do it. Good buddy of mine during COVID said, "You're doing this, man." We did it. We got the license. So now I get to transmit on these radios. I'm learning a whole lot. It's fascinating. This is an analog radio. So technically all radios are analog. I'm going to get into that. Now, this looks very similar. This is a radio oddity. It says Baofeng on it because it is. It's made by Baofeng for radio oddity. It's an RD5R. You'll notice the form factor is intentionally the same as the UV5R. The difference between these two radios is this is analog and this is digital. Now, what's the difference between an analog and digital radio? Now, in a when you send a signal, basically you modulate a signal. Let's say this radio sent a constant tone over to this antenna picks it up, and it's like I hear we modulate it. That's what we do with our speech. We're modulating a vibration that our bodies are generating this tone, but by modulating the tone up and down and causing breaks and stuff in it, we produce sounds that we interpret as language. So same thing with the radios. In an analog world, if this antenna can see this antenna, a signal can go from one to the other, and this radio can send noise to this radio that they can interpret, and through the little speaker, produce sound that we understand. Now, analog is just like a record player. You've got this thing spinning around, you got the needle on it, and it feels the grooves, and every time it hits a groove, it produces a vibration in the needle that is modulated into sound that comes out of the speaker. Your CD is digital. Instead of, technically CDs have pits and lands, so they do have grooves, but the laser focuses down into it, through the plastic of the CD into a pit or a land, which causes the laser either to come back up and get red or not, which is on or off, which is 0 or 1. That's digital. Morse code could be considered digital. I don't want to open up any floodgates of radio operators getting mad at me, but the digital would be ones and zeros. So now this antenna sends to this antenna. Oh, excuse me, this one can't do it. It's analog. Let's put that one down and introduce you to the Anytone 878. Nice radio. Nice step up from these. These radios are like $25. That one's not. These analog radios are like $25, $35, whatever. And so a lot of people view these as disposable. A lot of people get them and they use them without license. That's naughty. And a lot of people get them and use them for purposes they're not intended to. The FCC classes them I'm speaking in terms of the United States. The FCC types these, and these are typed as ham radios, not GMRS radios. If you want a GMRS radio, you're going to end up with something like the Radio Oddity GM30, which is a fantastic GMRS radio. On April 19th, the pricing to get your license for GMRS radios coming down from $70 to $35. That's not per year, that's per decade. So I paid $70 for a license for this thing that is good for a decade. $7 a year, the license extends to my entire family. My license is Whiskey Romeo Mike Juliet 225. I'm WRMJ 225. For this radio, my son can use it. He can be WRMJ 225/son or /Evan or whatever. My mother-in-law could be /Mill. The only people who can't use it in your family are cousins. So it's a bargain, and you still have to identify yourself every 15 minutes on this one. On the ham radios, it's every 10 minutes, and at the end of your transmissions. I'm not getting into how and why I'm getting into radio. I want to get to my little project that's over there. That's what I'm trying to get up to, but I'm getting lost. GMRS we'll put down. This is, I don't know why I brought it up. That brings us back to this realm. Let's put the analog radio away. And these are fantastic tools. The Anytone 878, what a powerful, great radio. Feels really good in the hand, makes great contacts. What the difference between a $35 radio and whatever this thing costs is quality. You know, I can stand out in the same spot in my yard and hear people on this one that I can't hear on this one. That one rather. This is a little different. This is a digital radio. This is digital. This one was analog. So analog, I speak into it, my voice comes out on the other side. The digital encodes it, the signal. It's still an analog signal, but there's not going to be all that static. You know, in the movies, you hear all that kind of noise. That's analog. You're pushing the button, it's sending a carrier wave, you're hearing the static because it's analog. It's just like that needle on the record player when it gets some dust. Your CDs, your compact discs, are digital. Same thing with these things. They're sending ones and zeros. Now, they're still sending it over an analog wave. And the thing about radio is anything's in the middle, like this. Let's say we have a mountain that's blocking these antennas. Now, this antenna cannot see this antenna. Signal's not going to get there. So you have these things called repeaters. You might have another radio that's up on a mountaintop. So this signal will send to this repeater, which will send it down to here. And it acts as an intermediary talking between the two radios. So the reason I bring up repeaters, the relevance, these digital radios can only talk directly to one another in a digital mode. Now, you can use them as analog too. They're analog radios, but they also have the digital component. So if I want to use the digital side of it, I have to have hardware that can interpret that digital signal. There's time slots. So you have to, your signal's either going to be on time slot 1 or time slot 2. There's color code. There's a bunch of technical aspect to it. But all you have to think about is, I push the button on this one, I hear it on this one, and there's no static because it's all ones and zeros. My voice goes in the microphone, gets encoded as ones and zeros, comes up to the antenna, goes over the analog signal, because all radio is analog, comes over to this other antenna, which hears the signal, does its checksums and stuff and says, oh, I received a packet of information that's valid. I'm going to interpret that and decode it into the speaker, and it's going to come out as Doug's voice. My voice goes in here. My voice comes out here digitally. No static. Really nice. Now, these radios are 5-watt radios. Can't remember. This one might be, this might be 7 watts, but for the most part, they're 5-watt radios. Increasing the wattage doesn't necessarily increase your distance because of what we talked about with the mountain stuff before. So increasing the wattage isn't necessarily going to get you distance. It's line of sight. So even though I turn these into digital, if I want to go a long distance, I still need hardware out there somewhere that can pick it up. I can talk digitally from this radio to this radio as long as they can see each other. But the minute that mountain gets in the way, and I need a repeater, another radio, so that this radio sends to this one that sends to this one. If this repeater can only understand analog, the digital aspect of these radios is not going to matter. So this has to be a digital repeater. So the signal goes up to the digital repeater and comes down. What am I getting at? I'm getting at what's a little weird and was hard for me to comprehend, because when I got this, you can talk digitally with your radio over the internet. Wait a minute. I can do that with Skype. I can do that with my cell phone. I can do that with Messenger, Facebook Messenger, all these different tools, Discord. I can get on the internet and talk without having an expensive microphone in my hand. I'm not going to get into the hows and whys of that right now. Suffice it to say that if I get on Discord, I have to go to a specific channel and kind of, it's really focused on subject matters and topics. I'm going down a rabbit hole. With these things, we have channels too, but it's still radio. It's like turning on your FM stereo and going, oh, I hear people talking. You don't generally do that with Skype or instant messenger. You have a purpose. You have a reason to go out and say, oh, I'm going to talk to my mom today. Boom. In radio, you can kind of turn it on and go, oh, that's an interesting conversation. Do I want to be involved? Yes, I'm going to push the button. I'm going to talk. So they make these things called MMDVMs. That is a multi-mode digital voice modem. And that's what's in this bag. I finally got mine. And I should move the camera down and point it at the ground. But I'm not going to do that quite yet, because this video is going on over 10 minutes, and I'm sure nobody's watching it. This is a MMDVM, multi-mode digital voice modulator. Modem, excuse me, last name's modem. And it sits on top of a Raspberry Pi Zero W. So this is a Raspberry Pi. This is a hat for it. So this, after I solder in the leads here, the little pins here, I'll be able to plug this into the Pi, and that'll be my MMDVM. And there's an antenna that goes on here, and that'll connect to my internet. So that in my house, I will use this radio, and I'll push the button, and the antenna will go from this antenna to this antenna, and then I will be talking to the world over my antenna. Because like the analog radio, we're kind of limited to the repeaters we have in the area, the range we can get. I can stand on my porch and talk to a repeater at Frozen Head Park that's 46 miles away from me with this. Talk here, signal goes 46 miles, fine conversation. If I want to go 100 miles, I need something to take that signal a little further. But if I want to go around the world, I use this. And the internet effectively becomes my router, my repeater. So I have to quit thinking of it as the internet as like I'm cheating. Because a lot of people get these things for when the world collapses, infrastructure is down, they want to have this to be ready to talk to the world. Well, there's different purposes for radio. I mean, maybe I want to connect to people. I have friends in London. Maybe I want to talk to them. They have a regular net where they get on and they talk on their radios. This is going to give me the ability to actually have conversations with my friends in London. Get some different world views, maybe. I'm a helper. I like helping people. I have these radios in my car. Somebody needs help, I can help them. I'm not far from the Smoky Mountains. Stood in my yard and heard an emergency distress call from the Smokies last year, and I wasn't the one to help, but I got excited that I had the ability to help, and that's what I want to do. Now, why can't I help? Why do I need this instead of the cell phone? Completely different video, completely different discussion, but the long and short of it is that this is instantaneous. I push the button, I'm talking. The cell phone, I've got to call some numbers. This, I'm talking to groups of people. I may be talking to hundreds of people and not even know it. The cell phone, I've got to pull everybody in situations like a disaster, like a Katrina, or a building collapse, or a tornado. The infrastructure supporting the cell phones might be down. People don't really realize this, but I think the cell phone towers are limited actually in the number of streams they can do. It's a small number. It's like 20. But because of the way the technology works, it seems like we're accomplishing a much more. Don't quote me on that 20 thing. I've got to go back and look that up. But there is a limitation. And so when a disaster hits, you go, hey, you try to make a phone call and it says, service not available. And you go, why is it not available? Did the tower collapse? No, it's too many people are using it. You're not going to run into that with this. Well, you kind of are. That's a different topic. But with this and this will sit in my house. I don't have to rely on that repeater over in Sharps Ridge. I'll be able to send a signal from this to this, and I'll be able to talk to people either in my local community. I can pick a different talk group that's my whole state. I can pick one that's worldwide. I can talk to people anywhere in the world with just this little device and this thing. That's exciting. I was going to show you all the pieces involved in this, but this video is approaching 15 minutes. All it is a small little black case, and I was going to start putting it together because I've got to take this, and I was going to show you me soldering it together. You don't need to see that. So it's got these headers Let's see if I can pull it out without losing it. So you've got the antenna that'll screw on. It'll screw on right there. And it'll be sticking out of the top of this box. So that's what my modem's going to look like. And then I've got these headers that I have to go into the Pi 0, and I'll have to stick these things through these holes and then solder it in so that I'll have that standoff. And I have actually standoffs. There's one in my hand because once this is on there, there needs to be a support over here, so there'll be this little support like that. And then I've got screws to actually screw it into the thing. All my pieces are on the floor. And the final piece of the puzzle was I got a little heat sink that's going to go on the chip here so that it doesn't overheat. This is my stress relief. This is going to be fun. If you're still watching this, I'm sorry. I can't give you these 16 minutes and 30 seconds of your life back, but I hope you've enjoyed this some. I certainly have enjoyed talking to you. Ham radio prices are going up. If you want to get your test, it's still going to be $15 to test, but you're going to have an additional $20 that has to go to the FCC to get licensed. This is due to certain politics that I'm not going to get into, but on April 19th, they're actually finally doing the $35 price increase. So anytime you make a license change, this Saturday I'm jumping up from, in America we have a technician, general, and amateur extra. I'm going to go for my general license, and I'm going to push it. I'm going to see if I can get amateur extra, but I'm not studied enough for that yet. I'm going to get my general, which is going to mean I can broadcast on, excuse me, we don't broadcast. I can transmit on more frequencies. I'm getting mine done on April 2nd, so it's still going to cost me only $15 instead of $35. This is something you can study for and pass your test in 2 days. There's a great website out there called fasttrackham.com, and it's by Michael Burnett, and he's, I can't remember his call sign. He's got a pedagogy that really teaches the material to you and makes you understand this stuff. A lot of sites out there will teach you how to pass the test, basically make you memorize the answers. If you want to understand it, use something like fasttrack.com. These are so versatile, just from personal communications to disaster preparation to helping out communities to infrastructure collapse. There's all kinds of reasons to get into radio. I'm going to talk to astronauts. That's my goal. Have a great weekend.